South Africans, y'all okay? Ain't nobody even on here arguing with y'all because it didn't give what y'all thought it was giving. But I see y'all just wanted to jump on the bandwagon. First it was the black Brits. Now it's y'all making fun of slavery. Okay. Then I see the Caribbean people laughing. We're in the same boat, but okay. I never knew you could culturally appropriate from other black people when you're black. I never knew that. But the New Orleans parade, Zulu been going on forever, and it's not to mock no South African Zulu. It's not even the same. Y'all heard it, y'all didn't care. Oh, I'm real Zulu. No, you're not. No, you're not. And it's so crazy that y'all even know about slavery and picking cotton and all that over here. And we don't know shit about y'all but apartheid and Nelson Mandela. And that y'all 90% of a country, and y'all still had to walk around with name tags and had to tell them white folks where y'all was going and y'all on land. But, you know.
The image you're looking at here is of the Zulu parade in New Orleans, a tradition which dates back to between 1909 and 1916. The tradition seems to be based on a skit or comedy which a man called John L. Motea saw, and which inspired him to create and organize a carnival. The comedy John saw had people in grass skirts wearing makeup, as you're seeing here, and it inspired him to reorganize his marching troupe. With this, Black Americans were allowed to have their own carnival, and this is how the tradition began, because around this time there was a lot of segregation. They were not allowed to celebrate with white people in their carnival, so they said they'll create their own, and this is how the Zulu parade was born. Now recently, Africans like myself and Zulu people in South Africa have discovered this, and it's causing a lot of controversy and tension between Black Africans and Black Americans, unfortunately, specifically those of New Orleans and specifically those in South Africa of the Zulu ethnic group. Now, have a look at this image and tell me, why do you think exactly the Zulus in South Africa are offended by what they're seeing? If you don't understand why they may be offended, I'll give you an image from a Belgian tradition called Black Pete. Have a look. This is Black Pete, a Belgian tradition where white people paint themselves black and have red lips, afros, and so on. Now, according to them, this is their tradition. It's not meant to be offensive to black people, and it's their way of celebrating Christmas and so on. Now, whether you're Black African or Black American, when you take a look at this, how do you feel? Do you think this is okay? If yes, then fair enough. But if no, then you should understand why the Zulus are offended. Now, for people in New Orleans, I get it. This is your tradition, this is your culture, and it's special to you because you had to build it in such a bad environment. Yeah, your ancestors had to do that in the 1900s. It's just kind of sad, I understand. But that being said, the origin of this was a skit. It's comedy, and you're calling it Zulu, which is offensive to actual Zulu people. Okay, it's a caricature of Africans, grass skirts, all that stuff. That's not that's not right. Okay. That being said, I'm not saying scrap this or get rid of it. No, continue. This is your tradition. This is what your ancestors left you, right? All I'm saying is, if you're gonna call it Zulu, at least do some research on the Zulu culture and show some respect to the Zulu tradition. And not only that, you can also incorporate other traditional African cultures and attires and so on, and have a tweak on it, mixing it with your culture. That's fine. I have no problem with that. All I'm saying is, this is like a caricature, and it was meant to be a caricature because it's based on a skit and comedy, as you can see, as I've said. And if that doesn't work and you don't care, you want to keep everything the way it is, that's totally fine. But just remove the name Zulu, call it something else. Because again, if people appropriated your culture, your names and so on, you wouldn't like that. So why are you going to do that the other way? Let's not be hypocrites. You know what I mean? Let's have respect for each other as black people. I'm a Pan-African. I want people to respect each other as black people. All of us. And I'm seeing disrespect on both sides. It's just heartbreaking for me, man. Honestly. It breaks my heart. But Anyway, that's my 2 cents. You guys let me know what you think.
Hello guys, welcome to the channel. So we've been seeing what's going on the internet between some African Americans and some South Africans, and I just want to share my thoughts on this whole saga. I think the whole thing started because the African Americans had a celebration. I think they do yearly, celebrating like the Zulu culture. And the South Africans, some South Africans called them out on it and told them that, this is not how to represent it. They made it look like that's the impression some South Africans had, was that, this thing is being made to look like what is not supposed to be. Maybe in terms of the costume, and also there are some blackface costume that the people had on. And sometimes, to be honest with you, I feel like their concern in the first, as if they had just left it as being like that with the concern, is legit. Because sometimes we've seen how maybe the West or Hollywood or some people from outside Africa try to portray Africa. And you being an African inside Africa, you'll be wondering, what are these people talking about? Or maybe they will bring somebody to speak a language that is not, the person is probably not a native or an indigene of that tribe in Africa. Maybe they want someone to speak Igbo, or they want someone to speak Yoruba, and the person is speaking it in a very distasteful, or should we say awkward way. And you could see clearly that, this person is not pronouncing it right. This person is not making the right statements. But because of it, the person is, is working for some powerful, maybe media company, or the people that are producing, maybe it's a movie or a music or a show or whatever it is. You can't say anything because the content is already being imposed on you. So it's either you accept it, and even if you complain, it will not go anywhere because they've already done that. So sometimes these concerns are very important for Africans to point out that, okay, you guys, we appreciate the recognition, but you don't also have to do it wrongly. You have to use a real son of the soil, or even if you're not going to use a real, at least learn it properly. Because you see some of the Hollywood movies, for example, when they want to, maybe someone from America wants to play like, let's say, a German, or wants to play someone from Italy or Spain. Sometimes they might not even have good Spanish skills. For example, maybe that person is an English-speaking person, or is an Englishman from America. When that person wants to play that role, you hear them that they've gone to learn, they've done a lot of, they might even go through training. And when they play that role, you see like it's almost to perfection. You won't even know that person is not maybe a Spanish native, because they've trained, they've learned it for a while. So you don't have to go and look for an actor from that community that you want to portray in your show or in your movie, but you can do the due diligence to at least learn to a substantial level what that person or what that culture represents and exactly how it is. So, but when it comes to Africa, you see that sometimes there's no much due diligence that is done. And I'm not saying all the time, I mean a lot of the time. There's not much due diligence that is being done to probably learn that culture properly and at least represent it in the best way possible, and not just some stereotype. So, and that is exactly what I feel, or what I've observed could be the main bone of contention between the South Africans, some South Africans, because we cannot group everybody. A lot of people are not everyone is online, and not everyone online is engaging in that disagreement. So the main bone of contention that I would think there is just that misunderstanding. Like, if you want to represent us properly. Get some real Zulu guys. Everybody don't have to be Zulu, but get some real Zulu guys to probably show you how it's done. Or even if you're not you can't get some real good Zulu guys, then at least do the due diligence to come down to South Africa and learn exactly how it's done, so that you put forth the best representation out there. But it's also important to point out that it deteriorated. That's the English. English is not my first language, guys, but we are speaking it because that's what we are used. That was what we were taught with in school over here. So now, with all of that, it deteriorated because things got out of hand. Some African Americans took that disagreement the wrong way, and they started saying some, typical stereotypical things against some South Africans, and the South Africans also went. Some of them I will always be using some in this when I'm talking about this, because we can never group any group of people as the same in terms of whatever we think that they are doing. So now the South Africans that went too far some of them went too far, using some terms as slaves, all that cotton picker, all those kind of degrading things. And some African Americans also were busy talking about using that same stereotypical, oh yes, you're drinking water, yeah, you guys live in huts, you don't have drinking water, so just these same insults. And all this could have been resolved by just simple humility and understanding. I don't think those South Africans who are speaking out have anything against the African Americans, because if we are being honest, these two cultures, let's say Africa in general, not just South Africa now, and the African Americans or Africans in diaspora, they all complement each other and they inspire each other. Whether it's Africans in the Caribbean, Africans in the US, Africans in South America, Africans in Europe, in Britain, we all complement each other. There's a lot to learn from each other, and we cannot discredit or simmer down the accomplishments of the African Americans in terms of influencing the urban culture of a lot of black people around the world, especially countries that are English-speaking countries where that the British colonized. You can't, because you see there are black people. Some of them try to some of the young black people in all these countries try to dress like the African Americans, try to talk like them, watch them, try to sound like them in some ways. But at the same time, they also don't neglect their African tradition, because they mix it. For example, if you talk about the Amapiano of South Africa, you could see clearly that as much as, sometimes they speak English and all that, but they still sing in their dialects, in their tribe, in their languages. So it's not right for anybody in the other side to come and say, you just want to be like us, we are the it. No. Can't you see that it's just appreciating and recognizing that, oh, you guys, we love what you're doing, it's entertaining, the good parts, because not everything also that comes out is good. The good part, oh, it's entertaining, we love what you're doing, but we are not neglecting our own culture over here, because you can also see the culture. And the Americans that are in tune with Africa, they also take inspiration. You can see the way they embraced Afrobeat, and they also embraced Amapiano, So that is how it should be. It should be being able to complement each other, recognizing the achievements, the success of each other, supporting each other. And that is how it should be, but nobody should be so high-minded and ignorant to start trying to make the other person feel less of who they are. Nobody should do that. Because that is what the racists from other communities want. Not the people from other communities. They are, I just believe that there are good and bad people in every ethnicity or community. So we shouldn't do that. And not everything is not just online banter. This is the toxic side of the internet. People are so toxic. People are insulting. You see countries versus country arguing online. And this is mostly related to black people. How many times have you seen China versus Thailand online battle? Or China versus Japan online battle? Or UK, England versus Scotland online battle? It doesn't mean that they don't have some little things they talk about, but it's not brought out for the whole world to see the way Africans, many of us, do some of these things. It's quite unfortunate that we think that it's all banter, and deep down that this is how you feel. You say it's banter, but you don't keep it just as banter. Because if it's just banter, you also be careful not to use some words. You be careful not to dare talk about slavery. Or after recognizing that the same people you admire, the same people that you respect, went through that and still came out and are still where they are, and are where they are today. And that did not destroy them. And something that happened to them outside of their own will. They say there's trading, but there's also kidnappings. That's the truth. If those guys that wanted them, their ancestors, really wanted them, you think that if their kings or chiefs had said no, don't take our people, you think that those people are just going to get on their ships or boats and sail back to Europe and say, well, the chiefs and the kings refused to give us now we have to go somewhere else. No. If they wanted them, they would have got them by any way, even if it means committing massacres, whatever it is, they would have got them by any way that they want. So that's why you need to understand that you cannot use such type of words towards the African Americans. And the African Americans, some of the African Americans that are not yet informed and properly educated about Africa should do that and stop the stereotype. Or maybe you feel like you're better because you're in the Western world. It doesn't make any sense. The same oppression that you're complaining over there is what Africans are complaining over here too. There's just a little, maybe the dynamic is a little bit different, but it's just the same thing. So, and try to understand the culture of people. And don't use all these preconceived stereotypes like, oh, there are no light skin in Africa, you guys are all dark, and the ones who are light are bleaching. Bleaching is a general problem across the melanated peoples of the world. Because of the way the whole thing is set up, some people feel like the lighter they are, the more the more privileged they become in the society. Then, so that's how some of them feel. It's not like that anymore in so many places, but there are still some places that it's still like that. Because there are so many natural light-skinned people in Africa. There are some communities that there are many. You will find many natural light-skinned people. Especially when you go towards the southern part of Africa. It's everywhere, even in the east, in the west. If you go to Nigeria, you will find tribes. You find people. They are across the entire country. Especially maybe you go towards the southeast, the Igbo people. You go to the Calabar people, Akwa Ibom. You go to not just those people, even other parts of the country. There are people who are light-skinned naturally, without bleaching. Even in Southern Africa, there are many. It's not because there's anything to it. It's just to let you understand that we cannot discriminate ourselves on the basis of that colorism or whatever, or trying to say that, no, you guys you're wrong. That means you're not properly educated. You don't know. And if you don't know, don't argue in ignorance, but try to learn. And this is the problem that many of us are facing. Not trying to understand. And also the Southern Africans, no matter how offended some of the Southern Africans, no matter how offended you might feel towards how it's represented, you have to look at the intention. The intent behind it is to promote and to be proud of an African heritage and an African culture. And with that in mind, when you disagree in terms of trying to shed more light or make people understand, not disagree in terms of animosity or anger, that, oh, you're destroying you're misrepresenting us, no, because you understand that the intention behind that was good. So it's not done properly, the representation is not right, then you have to be educative about that, not combative or insultive. So we need to understand that there's no winner in this. There is no winner. It's just everybody is losing. We are all losing. And we need to understand this and learn about ourselves and respect each other. Be humble enough to be taught. Be humble enough to learn. And at the same time, we must all appreciate ourselves for who we are. We must all appreciate ourselves for who we are. And nobody knows everything. So guys, that's what I wanted to say about this whole issue. That's what I want to say, and I just feel like we can start coming to the point whereby we can now recognize that we need to be constructive. We need to approach this in a way of trying to learn, trying to help each other, and not to try and tear down each other. We can take a cue from the other communities, the other ethnicities. You think they don't have their own issues or disagreements? They do. Some of them even have much more than some people in Africa. But they understand with the understanding of the kind of world we live in, sometimes they won't want to bring it out for everybody to contribute or to be part of that. And bringing it out is not an issue because we live in a globalized kind of world for the most part. And bringing it out is not an issue, but at the same time, we must respect each other. It doesn't matter to be honest, this is just a segment of maybe humanity. generally as humans, we also don't need to hate each other. We need to complement each other. Whether you are from Europe or you're from Asia or Africa or wherever you are, we also don't need to hate each other but complement each other. That's just how it is generally for us to survive. In this case, we're talking about African Americans and South Africans. But generally, this is the mentality that we should have as humans. Don't try to bring the other person down because you yourself, you're not perfect. You also have your own side to improve on. You also have your own issues. So guys, please let me know what you think in the comment section. Like this video, subscribe to this channel if you haven't, and I will see you next time.